Inside the temple, the holy bell rings out. Across the hall, a wave of restless murmurs begins to rise. This is the most ridiculous wedding I have ever seen. I think the Queen Mother has gone way too far this time. It looks like the line of Grand Duke Richard ends today. I heard that the daughter of the H-Bond family is cursed. The Grand Duke is a warmonger, but I never expected the Queen Mother to go this far, marrying her own stepson to the H-Bond daughter. There is a reason why everyone is whispering about this cursed marriage. They say the daughters of the H-Bond family never lived to see their 20th birthday. The H-Bond curse was a rumor, everyone whispered in fear. Not far away, Lady H-Bond sobbed, saying, "Honey, maybe we should stop this wedding before it is too late for our daughter. She will surely be neglected because she is too weak to provide an heir." Frida heard this and cried out, "Mother, father, you are not planning to cancel right before the ceremony begins, are you?" She said worriedly, "Frida, but you are the only one of my 3 daughters who survived." I thought to myself, yes, I am the one who survived, at least for now. Both of my older sisters died when they were very young. Just like them, I have been frail since birth. Whenever I wanted to go out, Lady H-Bond always stopped me. "Frida, I told you not to go outside." Little Frida would say innocently, "But I want to play too." My mother would hold me tight and say, "No, your health won't allow it. I cannot lose you like I lost your sisters. Please, Frida, just stay inside the house." My gaze suddenly turned dark. Yes, mother. I was prepared to live a very short life. I was basically locked in the house because my parents were so overprotective. But I thought to myself, maybe if I get married, everything will finally change. Back in the present, I smiled and replied, "Getting married is perfectly normal, so please do not worry too much." My mother's voice was still trembling. "Frida." I just gave her a happy, reassuring smile in return. This marriage was arranged by the Queen Mother for politics, so their protests did not matter anyway. It was time to say goodbye to those days of just waiting for death. Time passed, and the wedding ceremony finally began. Standing on the high platform, the bishop called out loudly to Daniel Johan Richard. I quietly glanced at the man who was about to become my husband. "This is the first time I have ever met him," the bishop continued. "Do you take Frida Bond to be your lawful wife until death do you part?" I wondered. He looks more polite than I imagined. Is an imperial man like this really the emperor's bloodthirsty hound? Suddenly, the hall doors flew open. A knight shouted, "Grand Duke, we found the rebel son who escaped! Arthur Nottingham is on the run. We must go and capture him immediately." The bishop yelled in a rage, "What are you doing in this holy ceremony? Leave at once." No matter how much the Grand Duke loves the battlefield, he is not a barbarian who would abandon his own wedding. Hearing those words, Daniel suddenly gave a cold, faint laugh. "Oh, forgive me. It seems I really am a barbarian. I think we can stop the ritual right here." I watched his back in a daze as he walked away. On my wedding day, at 17 years old, my mother would not stop crying, and my new husband just left me behind. Strangely, I was not angry or sad. I was finally married and could step out into the world beyond that mansion, even though my husband fell into a coma shortly after. 3 years later, at Moon Castle, in the southern reaches of the Richard estate, a girl's voice called out, "My lady, please come inside." I replied, "Wait a moment, Muriel. I want to pick these flowers first." My guard, Muriel Rosu, shook her head slightly. "You have been out in the sun for far too long." I calmly told her I was wearing a hat. She worried I might collapse again. A moment later, I held up my basket and asked if he would like these flowers. Muriel remained silent and did not answer. Even though he is called scary names like the Emperor's Hound or the Silent Assassin, she asked hesitantly, "Does my lady really like him that much? He did not just cut your wedding short, but he has been in a coma for 3 years. Lady Frida, you can return to your family whenever you wish. Your father wants you back too. Just say the word," and before she could finish her sentence, I gave my answer. "Thanks for worrying, Muriel, but I am truly fine. I am happy with my current freedom." Soon after, I carried the basket of flowers into a quiet room. I am back. Still fast asleep, I see. My husband, Daniel Johan Richard. Since our wedding day, we have not spoken a single word. I worried he might never wake up, but taking care of him is not that hard. After all, he was the one who gave me this chance to be free, so I want to help him as much as I can. I took Daniel's hand and said, "As long as I live, I will fulfill my duties." "Wait, not right now. I have so much to do today. Let me put these flowers in the vase first and then." Suddenly, the hand of the man in a 3-year coma twitched. I gasped. Wait, did he just? Before I could finish, Daniel suddenly grabbed my hand. The basket fell to the floor, and my entire body was pulled toward him. I stammered, "Grand Duke?" My husband, after 3 years in a coma, had suddenly woken up. Frida stammered, "My lord, are you awake? Do you recognize me?" Daniel remained silent for a long time, then suddenly blurted out a single word. "Flower." Frida flushed instantly. "A flower? Oh, do you mean I look like a beautiful blossom to you?" He shook his head calmly. "No, I did not mean that. What is with these tacky flowers anyway? Eventually, the morning sun began to shine into the room through the window. Daniel rubbed his temples, struggling to recall memories from 3 years ago. Nearby, a man in white introduced himself as Harick Muller, your right-hand man, best friend of the Grand Duke, and the son of the legendary mercenary captain, Ricardo. He gestured toward Frida, who was still stunned by the comment about the tacky flowers, and said, "That is the Grand Duchess, your wife for 3 years now." He asked blankly, "Is that woman really my wife?" Standing beside Dominic, Ricardo fumed. "That woman? Do you have any idea how hard the Duchess has worked for you all this time?" Dominic nodded in agreement. "He is right. You really should not speak of her in that way." Frida quickly tried to calm them. "Everyone, please." He must be very confused. He hit his head and was in a coma for 3 long years before finally waking up. Hearing her, Ricardo chuckled. "To think it took you that long to wake up after just hitting your head on a tiny pebble. You have grown quite weak." Dominic cut him off. "That is because he risked his life to save yours." Ricardo muttered that after 3 years in a bed, he surely learned his lesson and would not be so reckless for others again. Ricardo cleared his throat awkwardly, trying to look like he finally agreed with them. Daniel finally spoke up. "Do not push it, you two." Frida felt a jolt of surprise. "Oh my." His eyes are turning red. It was true. When his temper flared, his eyes would flush crimson. Ricardo spoke up with some hesitation. "If I may be so bold, you have a wife now. Should you not be a bit more careful with your words? I worry the Duchess will be deeply saddened." Daniel glared at him instantly. "What? What on earth are you talking about?" He suddenly stopped. Seeing Frida's face and eyes, Daniel broke into a cold sweat, his face showing clear signs of embarrassment. Seeing the tension, Ricardo spoke. "Grand Duchess, would you mind stepping out of the room for a moment?" Once the door was closed, Daniel spoke. "Dominic, give me a brief summary of the territory's status and what happened here over the last 3 years." Dominic answered immediately. To be blunt, she sold every heirloom in the castle to plant a massive field of herbs. He was speechless. "Forget that summary. Give me the details." Dominic took a moment to think seriously and then began to explain the situation. He described the desolate territory. It is bordered by the Anas Mountains to the west and the Rafas Mountains to the south. There was zero farmland, but she scouted the entire area. Suddenly, she told me to clear the forest east of the castle. Recalling her words, he smiled. At first, I had no clue what she was planning with that forest, but she insisted that we needed land for settlers to grow. We cleared the Antaz Mountains, and to pay their wages, we sold off every single thing in the castle we could. "Everything?" Daniel whispered. "Is that why my bedroom currently looks like a botanical garden?" Ricardo cut in. "That is just her hobby. But the population has grown 5-fold since you first took command here. Plus, we have recently begun to collect taxes from the people again, little by little. Also, last year we cleared land near the castle to grow herbs. They are just weeds, really, but we heard they sell for a very high price." Daniel massaged his aching head. "I still do not understand. Did that tiny woman really do all of this on her own?" Dominic nodded. "Yes, she is barely half your size, but she possesses extraordinary courage." That evening, Frida peeked through the door. My lord?" Daniel frowned. "Is something wrong?" She hesitated. "Well, I thought you might be hungry. Dr. Anton said soup is fine, so may I bring some in? But you probably cannot eat much yet, right?" she asked. Then she noticed the open window. "Oh no, it is drafty. Since you need to stay warm for a while, I will go ahead and light the fireplace. You are sweating quite a bit, so let me wipe you down and get you into some fresh clothes first." Daniel tilted his head. "You mean to tell me you intend to do all of that yourself?" Frida smiled. "Yes, exactly. It is what I have always done for you." Daniel shook his head. "That is not necessary." Frida stood there, stunned. "What?" But he cut her off. "I need rest today. Do not worry about me. I will eat something tomorrow morning." Frida felt a pang of disappointment. "All right, I will just add some wood to the fire. Please, get some sleep." Before she left, Daniel spoke. "Are you all right? You look pale. Are you sick? Let the servants handle my care from now on." Frida froze. She wondered if he was just being shy about the servants. Daniel repeated, "Do not do it yourself anymore." Frida's heart sank. Her hands began to shake. Of course. This was the first time he had actually seen my face clearly. Maybe he hates how I look. I do not look like a normal person. My face is pale, my body is thin, and my hair is white. Women of the HBON house always look like this. It was once a blessing in the early empire because they birthed a saintess. But today, these features are just a dark symbol of a short, tragic life. Even longtime maids avoided her, fearing her bad luck. What would he think now? Frida realized she should have been more careful. She had grown too comfortable around the few people who actually treated her like a normal human being. She said, "I get it now. I will leave everything to the servants from today. Sorry if this made you uncomfortable." Daniel looked confused. "What are you talking about?" Frida held him back. "Huh? he said seriously. I never said I was uncomfortable. Frida's face turned bright red with embarrassment. Seeing him get up, she hurried to say, "Oh, please do not move so fast." Daniel stood inside. "I ran from our wedding, woke up from a 3-year coma, and you spent every day nursing me back to health." He pinned her against the wall, smirking. "Am I not the one who should feel awkward here?" In this intimate pose, Frida looked completely flustered. She stammered, "No, you did not. You just slept peacefully. It was never a burden at all. In fact, I was so clumsy and I messed up a lot of things. I even accidentally nicked your face while shaving you once." "I am so sorry." Daniel shrugged. "I am not mad. Please, stop apologizing. I just worry that life here has been too hard on you. You look so pale." Frida froze. "Do I really look that pale?" Everyone knew she was born this way. Why mention it now? Wait, there was something she had to ask him. Did you know I have a major flaw? Because if you did not, then this whole marriage is basically a scam." Seeing his blank reaction, Frida panicked. "Oh no, did he really have no idea about the family curse?" She spoke quickly. "If you married me without knowing this, then we are both in serious trouble. The women of the HCB family all die before they reach adulthood. I do not even know when or how I will die." Daniel sighed. I know you are Frida Cloud Hejban, and I know this is a fake marriage. Have you not heard the rumors about me?" Daniel's head began to ache from her constant worrying. He groaned. "That is enough for today. I still need to rest," Frida remembered. "Oh, you are not well yet. Your body is still weak. Please lie down now." She gently pulled the heavy blankets over him. Daniel stayed quiet, staring at the floral patterns he hated. "Can you have the servants prepare a separate room for me? If you like this room, you keep it." Frida blinked. "A separate room?" he asked. "Is there a problem with that?" She hesitated. "Well, there is only one usable bed left in this entire castle." Daniel went numb. "What? What do you mean?" He remembered Dominic's words. "We sold everything we could." He rubbed his temples and groaned. "So, where have you been sleeping all this time?" Frida replied casually. "Right here. I slept next to you." Picturing that, Daniel gave a dry, speechless laugh. Even though he needed rest, the Grand Duke summoned the Muller family the next morning. The next morning, Frida paced the courtyard, her heart racing with anxiety. He must be furious. After all, I sold every piece of furniture in the castle without even asking him. He was already unhappy with this marriage. Now he knows what I did. What if he gets so angry that he kicks me out? I cannot let that happen. I love the people here, and I do not want to lose the precious memories we have made. She squeezed her eyes shut. With the little time I have left, I just want to live a happy life. Suddenly, Muriel ran up. "My lady, what are you doing out here? Elle is looking for you," Frida asked. "Muriel, did you happen to hear what the Grand Duke is discussing in his office?" She shook her head. "No, the castle doors are far too thick." Frida leaned in and whispered, "He is probably very angry, right? Maybe I should have left some furniture in the guest rooms." Muriel scoffed. "Nobody visits this remote place anyway. We do not need them." Muriel reminded her that she never spent money on jewelry or fancy clothes. She even gave her own things to the local woodsman. But Frida still worried. Muriel shouted that he was unconscious for 3 years and earned nothing, so selling the furniture was absolutely necessary. "Stop it. Do not just stand here worrying like this. You need to eat something before you do anything else." Frida shook her head. "I do not have time for that." Muriel looked annoyed. She suddenly swept Frida off her feet and carried her like a princess, leaving Frida completely stunned. In the office, Daniel watched from the window as Muriel sprinted across the yard with Frida. He sighed, the weight of her words hitting him again. She told him they were in trouble because she would die soon. He realized that no matter when it happens, death is still death. 3 years ago, I ran from my own wedding because I could not face the idea of that poor woman being dragged into my dark, miserable life. But seeing her now, he remembered a young girl kneeling at a grave, sobbing and crying out for her lost sister, Hestia. Back then, he was just a child. Now, he realized she was still just a girl who knew how to cry. Right then, a loud knock echoed at the door. "Sir, it is Ricardo and Dominic." Daniel nodded. "Come in." Stepping inside, Ricardo boasted. "See? It only took him half a day to recover." Dominic patted his shoulder. "Yesterday, you called him weaker than his wife." Ricardo corrected himself, feeling bad for her struggle. Daniel's voice suddenly dropped low. "And what about the two of you? Dominic Muir, Ricardo Muller. I cannot believe you both watched things get this bad. Now, hand that over to me immediately." Dominic paused for a moment, then smiled and held up some herbs. "What are you talking about, sir?" "Oh, so it is just local herbs?" Daniel narrowed his eyes. "Stop playing dumb. I am talking about the secret treasury key that I entrusted to your care. Tell me, why did you hide all that money and those jewels from her this whole time?" Dominic finally came clean. "I thought it was for the best. I cannot just show those riches to anyone." Daniel frowned, his voice laced with anger. "Is that so? What if she had died before I finally woke up?" "She suffered without knowing we had so much gold," Dominic replied with cold indifference. "Well, If that happened, it would be a pity. Daniel let out a dry laugh. Right, this is the Dominic I remember. A cold heart that never wavers for anyone or anything. Harick Muller bowed, taking it as a high honor. Thank you for the compliment, Your Highness, he replied. Daniel's tone shifted. However, since I am awake now, I can tell her myself. Give me the key to the treasury. Sweating and trembling, Dominic finally reached out and handed over the heavy metal key to him. I must object if you plan to give her this key. Daniel's face darkened like a storm as Dominic pulled his hand back. What? Dominic replied, My lady has great ambition and a strong will. With that gold, she would turn this land into an empire. Daniel gave a thin smile. And what is wrong with that? Dominic turned serious. Do you think the Empress Dowager would just watch? You would be dragged back to the battlefield, forced to be the Emperor's hunting dog once again, sir. I cannot let that happen again. 3 years ago, the Grand Duke suffered a head injury while trying to save me. Had you died then, I would have hunted down the Empress Dowager. After unleashing my fury on her for pushing you into that death, I would have surely died too. Only one thing kept my rage in check. Even though you were in a coma, you were still breathing. I survived all those days because I believed you would wake up. Dominic knelt on one knee and spoke from the heart. Your Highness, please trust me. For now, you must keep a low profile and remain as quiet as possible, sir. Would it not be better to give the key to her after everything finally settles down? He bowed his head, quietly waiting for the verdict. A few minutes passed by. Dominic peeked at the lord he served and let out a quiet sigh of relief. Phew, he does not look angry. Did I actually manage to convince him? Time slowly ticked by. A voice echoed from the hallway. Your Highness, you should not push yourself. Please go back and rest. Daniel spoke firmly. Enough. Go fetch my horse Banjiak for me. Anton was stunned. Sir, do you mean your favorite horse you love? You are not riding now, are you? Your Highness, please rest. If you shock your unused muscles after so long, you could end up paralyzed. Daniel suddenly remembered what Frida had said. Sudden movements would put too much pressure on his weakened body. He cursed under his breath. Damn it, those words remind me of what happened recently. When Frida's face appeared in his mind, he paused. Honestly, having a wife really is just a massive headache. A few hours ago, Frida had brought in a basin of warm water. Daniel jumped. What are you talking about? You cannot just barge in here without a single word of warning. Frida spoke calmly. I am massaging you as the doctor ordered to prevent muscle stiffness. I do this every single day. Daniel froze, shocked. Every day? So you have been touching me? He meant the massages. She smiled at him. Yes, of course I have. Sudden movements could strain your body, sir. Then, Frida dipped a cloth into the water and began to wring it out. Seeing her get to work, Daniel spoke quickly. I am truly fine now. You do not need to do this. Frida insisted. I will care for you as always. Just focus on your recovery. At that moment, Daniel reached out and grabbed her. As their skin touched, they both froze. Daniel looked deep into her eyes, let go, and asked, Are you not uncomfortable around me? Frida looked dazed for a second. What? Oh no, not at all. I am not uncomfortable in the slightest. I am your wife. This is my duty. Daniel sighed heavily. As for me, being near you makes me feel quite uneasy. I only said that to escape a troublesome situation, but when she heard my words, her expression seemed to freeze in place. That sad look cut right through my heart. It made me feel uneasy for the rest of the entire morning. An unsettling feeling lingered, as if everything was falling apart. Daniel leaned back and thought, what a mess. Fixing this feeling is simple. He called out sternly, You there? Dr. Anton replied. Yes. Daniel touched his long hair. Bring me a pair of scissors. Inside, I thought about getting rid of it, drawing a line or just slicing it off, then declaring that I would cut this thing out. The Duke's mansion remained quiet. In the dining room, Muriel was devouring her food while Frida ate at a much slower, calmer pace. Suddenly, Daniel approached. He swung the door open and stepped inside, prompting someone to cry out, Oh, the Duke is finally here? Daniel paused. Oh, are you eating? Let us talk later then. Frida stood up quickly. Yes, that works for me. Daniel told Dominic to bring her to see him once she finished. He nodded immediately. Yes, of course, Your Grace. He left the kitchen with a brief goodbye and walked away slowly. Dell covered her mouth in shock. Just a haircut, yet you look so different. I barely knew you. Muriel gritted her teeth. I guess I can admit that his looks are at least decent. Dell noticed Frida's expression. My lady, are you feeling unwell? She shook her head slightly. No, I am fine. It was just a bit of a surprise. After finishing her meal, Frida let out a quiet sigh as she walked toward Daniel's room with Dominic. Wow, that really startled me. This is the first time I have seen him like this since the wedding, but this was always how he was supposed to look. Before, I only thought of him as a patient needing care, but today he looks like some kind of ancient god. Shortly after, Dominic knocked on a door. Your Grace, it is Dominic. I have brought the Duchess to see you. A voice called out from inside. Come in. He bowed to Frida and said, I will take my leave now. She entered, and Daniel asked immediately, "Where did you sleep last night? There was no bed for you." Frida replied, "I stayed in Muriel's room." After a brief silence, Daniel stood up and reached out. "I called you here to talk about something related to that matter. I want to show you something. Follow me." With that, he walked to the bookshelf and pulled a hidden lever. To Frida's complete surprise, the bookshelf slowly swung open like a door. Dazed, she asked, "Wait, what is this place?" Daniel grabbed a candle tray nearby. "Good, stay close to me." The two of them headed deep into the secret passage. Frida was stunned. She never expected a secret passage here. What was he trying to show her? He was moving so fast she could barely keep up with him. "I cannot stay in the sun too long, and I see poorly at night." Because she always lived so close to death, these dark spaces terrified her even more. Her body began to tremble. It was a faint sound, but Daniel noticed it anyway. He turned and handed her the candle tray. "Take this and hold on tight." Frida gasped as he suddenly swept her up in his arms. "Wait, what are you doing, Your Grace?" Daniel looked indifferent. "At the rate you were walking, we would not arrive until tomorrow morning." She bowed her head in embarrassment. "I see." Daniel carried her deeper into the shadows. Along the way, Frida wondered, who exactly is this man? How could someone bedridden for 3 years be this incredibly strong? If my life is like a candle that could flicker out at any moment, his is like a massive, blazing torch. He was bedridden for 3 years but is still stronger than me. I am so jealous. Just as the thought passed, Daniel spoke up. "We are here. This is the place." He opened the door and carried her inside. Frida's eyes went wide as she gasped. "Wow, where on earth are we?" Daniel replied, "This is the estate treasury. Give me your hand. You can use whatever you want from everything in here." Staring at the piles of gold and silver filling the room, Frida stammered, "Does all of this really belong to you? And you are letting me use it?" Daniel nodded. "On one condition," Frida asked quickly. "What is it? I will do anything." After thinking for a moment, Daniel replied, "Get a bed in here immediately. Absolutely no floral patterns allowed." She beamed and replied, "Oh, okay." Later in the bedroom, Ricardo asked curiously, "What made you change your mind, Your Grace?" Daniel rubbed his aching neck and asked what they meant. He replied it was about giving the treasury key to the Duchess, thinking Dominic had convinced him. Daniel immediately recalled what the boy had said. Wouldn't it be better to hand the key to the Duchess after things settle? Then he said, "He didn't actually convince me of anything from the very beginning. I always intended to give it to her. She has looked after me for 3 years. What kind of man do you think I am? Whether I feel comfortable with her or not is a separate matter. Besides, it is not like she has much longer to live anyway. So while she is alive, I want her to do whatever she desires." Ricardo sighed. "News of your recovery has likely reached the Queen Mother. If the Duchess continues to make the estate prosper, I fear it will cause trouble and put you in grave danger." Daniel said calmly, "Don't talk nonsense. With a body as weak as hers, what could she possibly even do?" Ricardo thought helplessly, "That is only because you do not know her yet." Just then, the door was kicked wide open. "Daniel Richard, I told you not to give the Duchess that key. Now what do you plan to do?" he asked indifferently. "Is there a problem?" He shouted again. "Have you not heard what she is doing? If we just let this happen, we will be bankrupt in less than a year." "You brat." Ricardo's voice dropped. "Dominic, what are you doing? How dare you grab his Grace's collar like that?" "Look," he hissed, dropping his voice. "We used to play like this as children. Why is it such a huge deal now? I am telling you this not as your subordinate, but as an old friend. There is still time to stop her." Daniel still did not understand. He asked if she planned to buy a whole country with that gold. Dominic laughed. "Worse, your wife is throwing the treasury away on useless roads." He frowned. "Roads?" Dominic nodded. "Exactly. She wants to expand them and build a highway leading directly to the port, on land that could be seized by Leopold at any moment. Why build more roads?" He told her that major construction needs the Emperor's approval first, but she wants to start now. She plans to finish before the royal family can even try to stop her. Dominic started sweating just thinking about those words. What kind of terrible idea is that? He suddenly covered his mouth, panicking that he had spoken his true thoughts aloud. He cleared his throat and said, "Anyway, the point is, you have to stop her." Ricardo issued a warning. "If the Queen Mother finds out, she will send you back to war." Daniel nodded. "I will handle her. Go investigate who incited Duke Notting to rebel 3 years ago." Dominic let out a sharp cry. "Look, if you want me to work, stop your wife from causing trouble. Otherwise, find someone else to clean up her mess." The door slammed shut with a loud bang. Daniel thought, "Rhodes? She is a lot smarter than I expected for a typical noble lady." A few days later, Frida brought a document to his office. Daniel looked up. "What is this?" She replied it was a report. "I have prepared the construction plans and the distribution strategy." He sighed. "You do not need permission. Use the money however you want, whether it is for the territory or for jewelry and dresses." He stopped suddenly. In his heart, he felt she dressed far too simply. No one would believe she was the Grand Duchess. Dominic said she sold all her wedding jewelry to pay the workers. With the money I gave her, she should be living in total luxury. Look at her. She is so pale she looks like she might collapse. He jumped up when he heard her heavy, strained breathing. Are you not feeling well? Frida blinked, suddenly snapping out of it. What? No, not exactly. Daniel walked away from his desk. Do not lie to me. He touched her forehead and his eyebrows immediately furrowed. When Frida felt the warmth of his hand, her heart began to race. Daniel finally spoke. You have a fever. The moment the words left his mouth, Frida collapsed into his arms. Daniel panicked. Frida! Hey, can you hear me? Is anyone out there? In a room filled with flowers, she had arranged herself. Frida lay unconscious on the bed. Daniel sat by her side, keeping watch. Her eyelids flickered, and her eyes slowly opened. Daniel asked immediately, Are you finally awake? Frida sat up. Your Highness, how long was I out? He answered. About 2 hours. You still have a fever, so keep resting. Frida smiled. I am fine. This is normal for me. I just felt a little tired today. Did you look at the report I gave you? Building roads requires a massive amount of initial capital, so I have arranged for the merchants to visit the castle tomorrow. Daniel sighed. Stop reporting every little thing. Just do what you need to do. But from now on, entering the treasury comes with a condition. Frida looked worried. A condition? Daniel looked stern. You are in this state because you stayed up all night writing. Are you not? From now on, if you are unwell, you are banned from the treasury. He quietly pulled the key from her pocket. I am keeping this until your fever breaks. Frida protested, saying she had a fever almost every day. That would mean she could never enter the treasury again. Daniel smirked. Then the treasury will just have to stay closed for a while. Frida scrambled out of bed. Your Highness, how could you do this? You gave it to me, then you take it back. It is for your health, Duchess. Forgive my rudeness. Now, get some rest. Frida screamed in anger. You liar! Daniel coldly shut the door behind him. Remembering her reaction, he let out a soft chuckle before quietly returning to his office. Frida stood there, heart pounding. This cannot happen. The merchants are almost here. These merchants carry rare bulbs from far away. They grow into unique, beautiful flowers that nobles will pay a fortune for. Right now, Utrecht has the perfect climate to grow them. She had to buy and plant them immediately for the harvest. If she built the road connecting the castle to the port, her flower and herb business would skyrocket. She bit her lip. Fine, if he will not give it back, I will steal it myself. They arrive tomorrow. I have to get that key from the Grand Duke before they arrive. I am running out of time. She moved toward the flower pot and began to plan. They say whenever the Grand Duke goes out riding, he stays away for a long time, and when he travels that far, he never carries anything important with him. That is my chance to find the treasury key. He would never expect me to go through his personal things. Just wait and see. I will open the treasury, sign the deal with the merchants, and show him exactly what I am capable of. While lost in thought, she reached up for a book on the shelf, one she had never touched before. The moment Frida pulled the book, she froze. Suddenly, the bookshelf in front of her began to slide open. Tumbling forward as the floor vanished, Frida wondered, is this a secret passage? Just like the last one? Before she could think, she hit the ground with a thud. Wait, no! The door was closing fast. Outside, Daniel left the stables, thinking to himself that riding was finally helping his body recover from the ordeal. He hadn't forgotten the hidden routes. Inside Munhem Castle, 5 separate rooms connected to these very secret passages. As soon as he could walk, he checked every path to ensure he still remembered each winding stone corridor. Only the Duchess's room remained, but as Daniel approached, he stopped cold. Something felt wrong. Very wrong, he thought. Someone had broken into the room. Seeing the books scattered everywhere, he suspected the Empress's spy. He drew his sword, ready for a lethal confrontation. That fool must be trapped in the passage. Without the trick, it was impossible to open from the inside. He gripped his sword and opened the hidden door. But when he saw the figure inside, Daniel froze again. It wasn't a spy. It was Frida, lying there, barely breathing. Daniel gasped. What on earth are you doing? Wake up! What happened? Then it hit him. She was terrified of the dark. Even with him, she used to tremble. And yet, she had been trapped here all alone. He could almost hear her crying out for help. Damn it, how long were you in there? Daniel growled, lifting her up. Is anyone out there? Help us now. A knight rushed in, panicked. Daniel screamed at him to find a doctor this instant. Meanwhile, a carriage pulled into the Sondo Castle grounds. Inside a cold room, a knight bowed deeply. News has arrived, Your Majesty. 10 days ago, Archduke Richard finally woke from his long, deep sleep. Empress Margera sipped her tea calmly. She noted his resilience, having expected him to never open his eyes again. Leopold chuckled, saying she was being too cruel to a son who had been comatose for 3 years. You call that thing my son? He is just the spawn of that peasant Laura, a dog who follows the Emperor's every command. That is his only worth. Back at the Duke's mansion, Daniel laid Frida onto the bed for the second time. He stood there in silence, waiting. Soon, Anton and Muriel came bursting through the door. "My lady, what happened?" Muriel cried out. But seeing Frida's disheveled state, the knight suddenly stopped mid-sentence. She glared at Daniel, words catching in her throat. Without warning, Muriel punched him square in the face. While Daniel stood there dazed, Anton yelled out in shock, "Knight Muriel, what are you doing? What did you do to her, you monster?" Daniel rubbed his jaw, scowling. "Knight Muriel, have you lost your mind?" She sneered. "You are the crazy one. Look at her hair. Look at her clothes and her hands. Do you think I am blind? You forced yourself on her. If you need a woman, find a mistress. Don't do this to someone so weak and fragile." Daniel's voice turned cold. "You are clearly mistaken. I suggest you stop this nonsense right now. I am not a patient man. Besides, what does it matter what I do with my own wife?" Muriel was shaking with rage. "You're asking what's the problem? How can you even say that? As Frida's knight, I challenge you to a duel. Draw your sword right now." Just as she pointed her blade, Dominic walked in. "What is going on here?" Dominic asked. Muriel spat out. "Your master tried to force himself on her. He was stunned." "What? Daniel, Your Highness, are you insane? Look how fragile she is." Daniel's voice dropped. "Dominic, get her out of here. Now, everyone, get out of this room immediately." That evening, in the quiet room, Frida's eyebrows twitched as she slowly began to wake. She opened her eyes, confused. "Is this the Archduke's room?" Daniel spoke up. "Looking for the key?" Frida froze. "Oh God, Your Highness. I asked if you were searching my room to find that key." "Well, yes," she stammered. She hid her face, dying of embarrassment and wishing the floor would swallow her. "I shouldn't have snooped. Now I've caused so much trouble." Daniel walked toward her, his face serious. "There are enemies everywhere, Duchess. I could execute you right here on suspicion of being a spy. That is my right. So, if you plan to search my room again, I suggest you don't." "I am so sorry. I don't know what to say." Daniel went silent, seeing her sorrow, then handed her the key. As Frida beamed with joy, he asked curiously, "Are you planning to trade with the Duke's merchants arriving at the castle soon?" She replied, "Yes, I need to pay them for the flower bulbs we will be planting this coming autumn." Daniel tilted his head and asked about the bulbs. Frida explained that in their royal garden, certain flowers bloom in spring if planted by autumn. And their shape is exactly like the headscarves the merchants always wear. They come in many colors, and back home, the rarer the shade, the higher the price tag. It is only a matter of time before this trend reaches sin. If we can grow these flowers here in the United Kingdom, our lands will flourish. She stopped suddenly. "Oh no, I got way too excited there." Daniel went silent, then asked, "Duchess, do you really love this place that much?" Frida smiled and said, "Of course I love it here." Daniel watched her, realizing she saw a future where flowers bloomed after the long winter. He saw a prosperous land and happy people, though she might not live to see it. Why did she crave that future so much? He could not help but wonder what was there to like about such a barren, dead wasteland. Frida looked down. "You might think I am selfish, but I actually like the barrenness. It gives me something to do and a way to help everyone. I want the people of Utrecht to live well long into the future. People like Muriel and Ricardo, Dominic, and all the precious souls here. They have always treated me with such kindness, including the person who finally helped me escape my life of captivity. I want everyone to be safe," she added. "You, your children, and their grandchildren after them. I will build a wall to protect them as long as I have strength." Moonlight hid his face as he froze. Frida continued, "I will faithfully fulfill every single responsibility given to me, even my duties as Grand Duchess, so please, Your Highness, do not worry." His hand began to shake. Daniel stepped forward. "Duty?" She nodded. "Yes, the duty to carry on the Richard family bloodline. I think the Empress chose me because she thought I was infertile, but I will do anything to give you an heir." After a long pause, he asked, "Do you even understand what that means?" Frida replied, "Yes, I am ready." Daniel fell silent again. She whispered, "If you already have another woman in your heart, please tell me." Daniel's gaze darkened. He clenched his fists, his voice turning cold and sharp. "Are you suggesting I take a concubine just to have children?" Without warning, he pinned her down onto the mattress. "What if I say no? I have no intention of marrying a concubine just to raise another child labeled a bastard." Frida flinched, remembering his past. "I am so sorry. I did not mean to insult you." Daniel pressed on. "How far will you go? You should be the one to bear my child. How far are you willing to go?" He reached out, tracing her lips gently. "This far?" He moved his hand lower, asking again. Frida stayed silent. "Tonight, can I expect you to fulfill your duty as my wife?" After he said that, a heavy silence fell over the room, leaving nothing but the frantic sound of Frida's racing heart. Her face showed clear hesitation. "I understand, Your Highness, but I am unwell. Could you give me some time?" Daniel thought it over seriously, then nodded. Very well. The next day, Frida finally met with the merchants. After talking business, they inspected the coins she offered. A moment later, the room filled with laughter. The atmosphere inside stayed cheerful, but Muriel felt a sense of dread as she stood outside the door. She figured the Duchess was just happy to have finally reached a successful deal, while she herself felt completely overwhelmed by all the chaos. Right before she heard her speak about last night, Frida suddenly shouted, "Wait, what? Did His Highness actually try to force me?" She quickly waved her hands to explain. "No, Muriel, it is not like that. My clothes are torn because it turns out Frida fainted while she was searching the Duke's room for the keys. He said he tore his own clothes because he felt suffocated in the secret passage and wanted to save his wife's dignity. He did not make any excuses and even took my punch." Muriel could not help but blush at the thought. Damn it, I wish he had just hit me back instead. She sighed, while Frida bid the merchants farewell. Later in the forest, Frida looked around. Wait, is there a port over on that side? Dominic asked nervously if the Duchess was certain about cutting a road straight through the woods. Frida stood her ground. We need a road to sell goods from Utrecht because shipping has always been such a struggle. This is not a choice, it is a necessity. Dominic gave in. Fine, I get it. I suggest we build toward the mountains instead. That is part of the Antaz mountain range. No one will complain if we clear it, but that area borders the west and could cause conflict. Plus, the distances are equal. Better to play it safe and take the secure route, Muriel probed. How did you learn all this? Back at Monheim Castle, being literate is a rare skill. Even without an official title or rank, I was constantly summoned to help everyone. I am just a mercenary. Why am I even worrying about things like this anyway? Damn it. Frida paused, deep in thought. Fine. I have made a decision. We will build the road toward the west, Dominic asked in surprise. What? But why? Didn't you say you wanted to avoid any conflict? Frida explained that was exactly why the road had to go that way. If they only opened the port to one side, the west would lose their monopoly. When that happens, they will definitely find ways to block us or slow our progress. But if we build toward them, they might see a chance for profit. They can trade with us, and more roads mean more business. So building the castle toward the west is much more beneficial. Dominic gave a dry laugh. Your analysis is perfect, my lady. Just then, a horse approached. He quickly said, Someone is coming. Frida stood frozen, her eyes locked on the flag fluttering in the rider's hand. That is the Virgin Royal Crest. It means word has reached them. They know the Grand Duke is awake. In the office, Daniel tossed the envelope onto the desk. The royals are sending a spy. The letter claims that to honor the Grand Duchess's tireless efforts, King Richard is sending a highly capable butler to assist our household. They hope you won't refuse the kindness of a brother who is always worried about his siblings, Dominic laughed. If they knew how bad things were, they should have sent help long ago. Why now? It is obvious they want to plant a mole here. So who is this rat? Daniel answered. Baron Steppenboy. Muriel frowned. He must be on the Queen Mother's side. He used to tutor her grandson. I remember him because he went to the same school as my brother. Frida noted that since he was a tutor and a graduate, he must be very intelligent, Dominic said reluctantly. That just means he will report our every move to the Queen Mother. She shook her head. No, Dominic. He can read and write. His brain started working fast. Wait, he's smart, he can work, and he can lighten my heavy workload. A lucky star. Finally, someone to share the burden. I have changed my mind. Dominic insisted they must let him come, seeing him as a blessing rather than a spy. Frida nodded in agreement. Daniel warned them. Whether he is a rat or a blessing, the Emperor sent him. We have to keep him here for a while. I am entrusting him to you. Duchess, Frida said with a smile. Don't worry, I will bury him in so much work he won't have time for secret letters. Dominic agreed wholeheartedly. Daniel said reluctantly, Fine, do that. Then he turned and stared intensely at her. Frida felt awkward and thought, why is he suddenly looking at me like that? Seeing her blush, Daniel cleared his throat. That is all for now. You are dismissed. Dominic replied, Yes, good night, Your Highness. Then Daniel suddenly called out to the knight. Muriel rose Wando. Coldly, he said, You stay. Her heart skipped a beat. As the door closed, Frida prayed silently that she would be okay. Just then, a sharp pain shot through her lower abdomen. She winced and groaned. My stomach. Night fell over at Chell Castle. The man they had just been discussing at the Duke's estate was now cowering in absolute terror, trembling before the presence of the powerful Queen Mother. Seeing this, Wen said, Baron Steppenboy, no need for such tension. I am not asking for anything unreasonable. He stammered. Your Majesty. She cut him off. There is no need for such dread. When you arrive at the estate, I won't force you into any impossible tasks. All I want to know is if Grand Duke Richard has a woman by his side. That is all. Stepan frowned. A woman? Wen smirked. You surely know why the Virginian Empire has suffered so many civil wars. Vostocki was a fragile founding emperor who somehow fathered 12 different children. He gave titles and lands to every one of them, creating 12 dukes. Then he declared that the next emperor would be the most capable son, regardless of birth order. That was when the empire cracked. 10 years after Vark I died, 4 families that once held the throne were swept into power struggles. One by one, they were annihilated in the wars for the crown, until only my Wen family and 4 others remained, including the Richard house. This bloody, tragic history must never be allowed to repeat itself. I will protect the current emperor's bloodline and put the empire back on the right path. No woman can be allowed to continue the bloodline of someone with such tainted, half-breed ancestry. Meanwhile, Daniel stared silently at Muriel. She stepped forward with a hesitant pace, silently wondering exactly what he was planning for her. If you were going to scold me, just get it over with instead of staring like this. Finally, Daniel spoke. Is that sword named Konda? Muriel quickly replied. Ah, yes, it is my family heirloom sword, a treasure from my house. He smirked and said, what a waste for a knight's blade to be held by a nanny. Why are you serving the HCB family? She calmly replied that the count once helped her, wishing only to protect his last daughter. Daniel paused. Is that so? Knight Muriel rose 1. Do you still wish to continue your challenge? She bowed in apology, accepting any punishment he chose. Daniel replied that she served the lady, not him, so punishing her was not his responsibility to handle. However, challenging me is another matter. Muriel, I accept your duel as a sparring session. If you win, I will grant you whatever wish you desire most. Muriel was stunned, thinking, a sudden sparring match out of nowhere. He promised a wish, but then he added, if I win, you must give it to me. Muriel lowered her voice and asked, are you truly serious? Daniel nodded. I am absolutely serious. She weighed the offer carefully, clenched her fist with new resolve, and then declared loudly, I accept. A smirk played on Daniel's lips. The match will take place in 2 days, at 3 o'clock, in the training grounds of Moon Castle. Daniel trained very hard to regain his strength. As he broke a sweat, warming his body up, Frida was rushing down the hallway toward him, looking completely worried. She worried, a duel against Muriel? If he gets injured in his current state, what are we going to do? Even Dominic would not stop him. He just snapped back when she suggested it. Since when does he listen to me? Before long, Frida knocked on Daniel's door. Sir, may I come in? He nodded. Come in. She opened the door, starting to speak, but stopped. Oh my, sir, why are you not wearing any clothes? He teased her, saying she should be used to his body after 3 years of care. Frida blushed. You were in a coma back then, sir. While hiding her face, she peeked through her fingers at him. She realized her husband was truly massive. Then she remembered her original mission. I heard you are dueling Muriel tomorrow. Is that really true, my dear lord? Please tell me. Daniel nodded. It is. Frida asked frantically, why would you do that? Please, skip the match. You have not fully recovered yet. If you get hurt, it will be a disaster. Daniel chuckled. It seems you think I will lose. Frida hesitated. She knew Muriel was the strongest knight in the north, famous across the entire vast empire. He had not touched a sword in 3 years. How could he win? Seeing her hesitate, Daniel said, do not worry about me. You should worry about your own health instead. He reminded her of her excuse about being unwell. Frida remembered saying she was still sick and needed much more time to fulfill her marital duties properly. Now he said, to me, you look very healthy indeed. So, how about today? Your duty as a wife. She stepped back. Ah, I am afraid you must wait a few more days. Curious, he asked for the reason. Frida blushed. Well, my monthly period is not over yet. Daniel froze. He did not think she took that so seriously. Was she really being that honest about her reasons? He started to speak, then thought, damn it, this feeling is worse than anything I ever faced on the battlefield. The next day, news of the duel spread through the Duke's estate. Everyone came to watch. Frida sat in the stands under her umbrella, wondering why there were so many people there. Dominic remarked that it seemed like everyone from Moon Castle had turned up for the event. Hearing that, she asked, where is Dominic Ricardo? Is he not with you? He sighed, saying the man was grumbling while gardening. He asked who would tend the garden if everyone watched. So, my lady, who are you betting your money on? I heard the servants put a massive amount of money on this match. You love money, don't you? Frida frowned. Betting? No, I am only here because I am worried about the Grand Duke. He was bedridden just recently. What if he gets hurt? Dominic burst out laughing. Hurt? You mean him, my lady? You do not know your husband well yet. Frida grinned. Dominic, do you really think Muriel will lose? Suddenly, the referee shouted loudly. All right, we are going to start the practice match right now, Frida continued. My Muriel is the North's strongest knight. Have you not heard of her legendary sword? Konda can fell a giant tree in one strike, Dominic thought. Did she say my Muriel? Then he boasted that Daniel was the strongest in the whole empire. Have you not heard of the Black Beast of Sion? I feel sorry for Knight Muriel. She is about to lose her family treasure. The referee's shout finally rang out. Begin! Muriel and Daniel stepped onto the field and charged at each other instantly. As they clashed, Muriel suddenly remembered her talk with Frida. Muriel, are you really serious about wagering the Conda? That sword was a sacred gift from the first emperor to your family lineage. She looked back and asked, My lady, do you honestly think I am going to lose? Frida shook her head. Not that, but I just do not understand why you would go so far as to bet your legacy. Muriel thought, My lady, it is because the Grand Duke and his circle do not see you as the Duchess. They only see a pitiful girl dying from an incurable illness, a harsh reality you do not even realize. You still push yourself every single day to fulfill all your duties as the true Grand Duchess. I knew the truth all along, but as an outsider, it was not my place to interfere. But if I win this duel, I will demand their respect. I will tell them they are never allowed to be rude to you again. I will force them to see how much you have done for this land and how hard you work for the Grand Duke. I will finally restore your pride and status as the one true Grand Duchess. Then she spoke clearly to Frida, I will be fine, my lady. I shall fight for you as your personal knight. Meanwhile, the crowd in the stands began to roar with excitement and anticipation. Go, Muriel, go. Frida watched tentatively and asked her husband if Muriel was actually winning the match. Dominic reluctantly admitted, Well, she is for now, but the Duke will show his strength soon. By the way, my lady, who are you rooting for? Watching the two duel in the arena, Frida hesitated to answer. But suddenly, right at that very moment, Daniel's blade snapped completely in half. She gasped in shock. The Duke's sword just broke. Then she cried out in total panic. His leg! Look at his leg! But in a heartbeat, the tables turned. Daniel was now the one pointing a blade at his opponent, using her very own sword. He asked sternly, Do you surrender? Muriel stood frozen, thinking the moment his blade shattered and struck his leg, I hesitated for a split second. I still looked at him as a weak, dying patient. He must have predicted my hesitation and exploited that opening perfectly. Then Daniel snatched the weapon right out of her hands and pressed it against her throat. Muriel bowed her head in shame, finally forcing out two words, I surrender. The crowd erupted into thunderous applause, screaming, Hooray for Duke Richard! What on earth just happened? It was all so fast! It happened so fast I could not even see the move. Long live the Grand Duke! Amidst the cheers, Daniel satisfiedly claimed Muriel's sword as his prize. Frida remained silent before calling Anton. Go and check on his condition immediately. He replied, Yes, my lady. Anton then began scolding Daniel for pushing himself far too hard today. Frida rushed to Muriel's side, asking if she was hurt. Can you stand? Muriel just stared blankly, whispering, My lady. Frida helped Muriel leave the arena. For a brief moment, as Daniel watched her walk away, he suddenly paused. A few days later, in the mansion hallway, Frida happened to cross paths with Daniel and Dominic. She bowed silently and kept walking without a word. Daniel knew she was angry. Dominic broke into a cold sweat, fearing she was mad at him, but Daniel shook his head. No, he said, I am the one she is mad at. Out on the busy streets, noticing the joy on everyone's faces, Daniel was puzzled. The city was far more crowded than 3 years ago. Dominic smiled and said, This is all thanks to the Duchess's hard work. By the way, have you two even spoken lately? Is she really doing nothing but submitting these dry reports to you? If someone saw you two, they would think you were boss and employee rather than husband and wife. Daniel stayed silent, knowing it was true. Since she grew angry, she only drops off her reports and leaves. Seeing his face, Dominic mentioned the maids were gossiping since they never eat together. Why are you letting your own wife become a target for such petty rumors? Be honest. Are you sulking because she sided with Muriel? Why on earth did you feel the need to go and take that woman's sword away from her anyway? Daniel insisted he was right. He won fairly and even got injured in the process. Dominic was speechless. He sarcastically suggested Daniel got hurt on purpose, adding that things might be different if he had simply lost. She would have worried for you instead of being angry. To her, winning does not matter. She always cares more for the one who loses. That is just the kind of person she is. Daniel sighed and countered, I do not think so. She was probably siding with Muriel from the very beginning. He paused for a moment, then said, Let us head back. Deep down, he secretly hoped Frida would bandage his wounds and care for him. That evening at the mansion, while walking to dinner, Frida spoke softly to offer some comfort. Do not be sad, Muriel. I will give you a sword even better than that one. She shook her head. It is okay, my lady. Why are you sadder than I am? She hesitated for a moment, but then Muriel added, Honestly, I actually feel quite relieved now. That sword never truly belonged to me in the first place. Frida looked at her, surprised. What do you mean? She took a deep breath and began her story. 10 years ago, I defeated my brother and was so happy to win the Conda. I became known as the greatest knight in our entire family. But it was all a scheme orchestrated by my father and brothers. They wanted our family to produce the very first female commander of the Royal Knights. I knew what they were doing but stayed silent. I simply could not give up the hollow glory of the Conda. Honestly, I feel relieved that everything ended this way. So you don't need to try and cheer me up anymore, my lord. My lady, Frida whispered softly to Muriel, She smiled through her regret for failing to win and secure your title as the Grand Duchess, yet she remained confident that you would succeed without her by your side. Please stay healthy until then. Suddenly, someone interrupted them, telling them to drop those gloomy faces and come over to join the others right now. Have some of this special herbal wine I made? It will make you feel better. Muriel quickly warned that the lady shouldn't drink alcohol, but she just shrugged her shoulders. It is fine. This is not even strong liquor. I even watered it down for you. Meanwhile, Frida raised her glass and shouted out a loud cheer. To the greatest knight, Sir Muriel Rose won. Elle added his voice to the toast. Muriel, the center of attention, could only sigh helplessly. Good grief, Frida yelled while clinking glasses. As the three of them were drinking in the kitchen, footsteps suddenly echoed from the hallway outside. Then Daniel walked in, leaving everyone stunned. Someone covered their mouth and cried out, "Grand Duke, why have you come here at this late hour?" He asked, "Is it too late for dinner?" They quickly replied, "What are you saying? Of course not. Please come in and have a seat with us." After that, she and Muriel headed out of the room. The dining hall suddenly fell completely silent. Frida sat across from Daniel, wondering to herself, why did he ask me to stay behind? This feels so incredibly awkward. He suddenly asked, "Do you always dine with the servants?" She politely replied, "Oh yes." Noticing her distant behavior, Daniel asked, "My lady, are you angry with me?" Frida was left in complete shock. "What?" He spoke bluntly. "Are you not upset because I took away Muriel's sword during the match?" After a moment of silence, she said, "It is not just that." She asked, "Can I be honest?" Frida then made a statement that stopped him cold. "You are quite annoying. During the duel, you purposely let her sword hit you, didn't you? You just wanted to distract her on purpose. You must be so proud of being that powerful. A wound like that probably means absolutely nothing to someone like you, does it?" Seeing her look so adorably foolish, Daniel reached for her bottle. Realizing it was barley wine, he told her she couldn't handle her liquor and should stop. Frida immediately shouted back, claiming that was exactly the reason why she felt so annoyed. "I know I am weak, and being born this way is not your fault, but at the very least you shouldn't play with my feelings like that. Did you think I wouldn't notice you have been testing me all this time? You knew perfectly well that I cannot have children, yet you kept talking to me about my duties as a wife. You are strong enough to defeat someone like Muriel, so you will likely never understand how someone like me feels." She bit her lip, remembering the day he had requested for her to come to his private room. "It happened just as my period started, but deep down I felt a strange sense of relief. On the other hand, I felt absolutely pathetic. I had boldly declared I would support him in every way possible, but when he finally asked for something, I flinched." At that point, Frida raised her glass again. "I know I am taking my anger out on him unfairly right now," but she cursed under her breath. How truly annoying. Daniel suddenly grabbed her hand as he set the glass down, saying, "I am sorry. I didn't realize you felt this way. I never meant to insult or offend you. Once you are sober tomorrow, we should talk." But before he could finish, a drunken Frida lunged at him. "Fine. Whatever. Just leave everything to me. My Lord Grand Duke, I will definitely give you a proper heir. We just need to keep trying and trying until we finally succeed, right?" Daniel frowned and said, "My lady, please, you need to pull yourself together." But at that moment, someone as weak as Frida actually managed to push him down. She said, "So please, do not lose hope, my Grand Duke." The next morning, as sunlight streamed into the room, Frida woke up in bed and sat up while holding her head. "Ugh, my head hurts." She suddenly froze. "Wait, this is my room, but I remember drinking with everyone in the dining hall late last night. So how did I end up here?" Just then, Daniel's voice suddenly echoed, "Are you awake now? Here, drink this. It will help ease your headache." Frida looked up and asked in a daze, "Why are you here in my room?" He replied that she got drunk despite the barley wine being watered down, so she should stay far away from it. Frida rubbed her forehead. Ugh. Suddenly, her words from last night flashed through her mind. "I will definitely give you an heir, so please do not lose hope." Grand Duke? Frida wondered to herself, what are these strange memories? What on earth actually happened last night? She hesitated before finally speaking. Did I act weirdly or do anything strange yesterday?" Daniel calmly replied, "Unless you want to die of embarrassment, it is probably better if you never remember." Frida hesitated before asking, "Then why are you still here in my room?" Daniel replied, "Oh, that? I see. I have been reflecting on everything you said to me yesterday. It seems you are feeling an overwhelming burden of responsibility regarding having children with me. Because of that, I think I should clearly explain my own perspective on the matter. I do not need children. The Richard name will end with my generation, or it will be passed to someone chosen by the royal family. So I do not want you to worry about it anymore." Frida asked hesitantly, "May I ask why that is?" Daniel calmly replied, "Why should I bring a child into this world when they would never be welcomed anywhere in this life?" She froze. The scene shifts to the capital's castle. In a grand room, Margaris rubs her brow. Outside in the hallway, an old royal doctor spoke softly. I regret to inform your majesty, but the queen does not seem to have any good news. Leopold nodded. I see. He felt a sting of regret, knowing the queen mother would be deeply disappointed by this news. Leopold Vostar, the emperor of the Virgin Empire and Daniel's half-brother. He asked with feigned concern, Is my wife doing well? The doctor replied, Yes, her health is fine. Leopold nodded. Good. Please make sure she is very well looked after then. He headed to the garden. A courtier suggested he comfort the queen, but he dismissed it, saying she was not seriously ill. Suddenly, a deep voice echoed through the air. Greetings, son of the empire. Leopold turned around. Good to see you, Count Chamberlain. Are you here to visit the queen mother? He answered, Yes, your majesty. Leopold smiled and advised him to leave, since the queen mother was in a foul mood. Chamberlain understood. That is a shame. My deepest condolences to you, your majesty, the count replied in a soft voice. Leopold laughed. You knew about this even before I did, and I am the one married. The courtier bowed, admitting the queen mother's long wait. Leopold shifted the topic, mocking himself. He suggested the problem might actually lie with him and his own personal failures, but the queen is the one who bears all the criticism. As he spoke, Chamberlain snapped, What do you mean saying you are the problem, your majesty? How can you say something so completely absurd, your majesty? Leopold stayed silent, thinking back to the cruel rumors the nobles spread regarding his failure to produce a royal heir to the throne. Chamber replied, The Baroness is being unreasonable. She just wants to blame you. Please, do not let it bother you. That was Baroness Pika Bouton, the emperor's very public and controversial mistress. After making several reckless remarks criticizing the emperor, she had angered the crown prince and was immediately exiled back to her territory in Bouton. Hearing her name, Leopold sighed and spoke calmly from her perspective, saying that he could truly understand those thoughts of hers. She had children easily with her late husband, but after years with him, she still had none to show. Since we are on the subject, I should verify this myself. I am going to Bouton. Chamberlain stood there, completely stunned. What do you mean by that? Leopold replied. I will see if I am the issue. I will know for sure after I meet Pachika and put in some real effort. Back at the Duke's estate, Frida sat by the window. Her eyes were heavy with a deep, lingering sadness. Bearing and raising a royal heir is the most vital duty for any woman of the high nobility. The queen mother doubted I could continue the line, so she married me off. Still, I have no choice but to try. Even in her isolation, she knew exactly how the world treated a noblewoman who failed to produce a child for her house. She clenched her fists, thinking that in order to be a devoted wife and provide him with an heir, she swallowed her pride and even suggested he take a mistress. But why on earth would he say such a thing? I do not need children. She asked Muriel what the reason could be. Why would a healthy noble claim he had no need for a son or daughter? In her own family, after 3 girls, her parents were desperate for a boy. They never stopped trying until they succeeded. Muriel mentioned a rumor about the Grand Duke. Frida leaned in, her curiosity piqued. What kind of rumor is it? She whispered that the Queen Mother and the Grand Duke used to be remarkably close in the past. Frida thought everyone knew that, but since she arranged their marriage, many whispers had surfaced claiming their relationship was far from good and was actually quite strained behind the palace walls. Muriel smiled. It is deeper than that. They say he used to call her mother. Can you even imagine that? Frida was shocked. Wait, really? Just then, Ricardo poked his head through the open window, catching them both off guard. What are you two up to? Frida shrieked in terror. Muriel caught her just in time as the knights rushed outside. Duchess, are you all right? She caught her breath. I am fine. Lord Ricardo, what on earth are you doing up there? He scratched his head. Sorry, I was just trying to trim that branch and had to climb up. Suddenly, Frida had an idea. She asked, You have known the Grand Duke a long time, right? He replied he had raised him since childhood. Do you know anything about his past? She asked. Is it really true that he and the Queen Mother used to have a very good and close relationship a long time ago? Ricardo paused for a few seconds. Then, a knowing smile spread across his face. It seems the Duchess is finally getting curious about our master, he said, his eyes twinkling with old secrets. Let us find somewhere quiet. This might take a while. I will tell you everything I know about his mysterious past. At that moment, a carriage was heading toward Daniel's territory. Inside sat Baron Steppenboy, whom Queen Mother Margaris had sent to the UES castle to serve as the new butler. He remembered her words. There is no need to worry about going there. It will be a simple task. I would never dream of asking you to do anything too difficult for me. He fell silent, lost in thought. The Queen Mother wants me to spy on the Archduke, but he surely knows I am a plant. With the rumors swirling about him, I wonder if we will truly be safe. The carriage hit a bump, startling Stepan. He quickly asked if his wife was all right. Mati smiled, reassuring him that she was fine and telling him not to worry so much. He remained anxious since the doctor warned them to be careful during this first trimester. Mati gave a soft laugh, saying she could handle it thanks to the luxury carriage he had rented. Seeing her smile, Stefan finally exhaled in relief. I am so sorry, my love, he whispered. You are only suffering through this difficult journey because of me. Mati comforted him gently. It is not your fault, Stefan. After all, how could we possibly say no to the Queen Mother? She was a wen, after all. Mati noted that Lady Richard was quite frail, so she planned to win her over with care. She was confident in her ability to charm high society ladies. Touched by her words, Stefan called her his darling. Just as a peaceful silence settled over them, the carriage struck a large stone with a violent thud. Their faces instantly went pale. Stefan poked his head out the window and shouted to ask what had happened. The driver replied that the wheel was broken due to the rough, deserted road. It would take at least half a day to fix. Stefan panicked, asking if they could somehow reach the nearest village. My wife is pregnant, he cried. How can she possibly sleep on the side of the road? Just then, a mysterious rider appeared in the distance, heading their way. The man named Harick spurred his horse forward. Are you having trouble with your carriage? He asked. And would you happen to be Baron Stefan boy? Stefan grew wary and questioned him back. Who are you exactly? And how do you know my name? Harick laughed and said, well, anyone dragging that much luggage toward Uwe could only be you. It was just a lucky guess, really. He hopped off his horse and stepped closer. The Queen Mother personally handpicked you to watch over her stepson after his return from the grave, did she not? You are her little spy, her little mouse, right? Stefan began to stammer in fear. You. But before he could finish, Harick slowly drew his sword. Actually, I am also on my way to visit him now that he has recovered. He pointed the cold blade directly at Stefan. Mati shrieked in terror for her husband. Harick ignored her and continued. I wonder if the Duke would be pleased if I brought him the head of a mouse as a gift. Back at the mansion, Ricardo spoke up. I will tell you the truth about his past, my lady. So, how has your life with him been lately? Frida sighed. To be honest, we are not nearly as close as other married couples are. He seems uneasy whenever he is around me. Plus, a few things happened recently that made everything feel very awkward between us. She remembered Daniel saying he did not want children. That is why I think I need to learn more about him, she added thoughtfully. Even if it is a bit late, perhaps understanding him will help make our lives together a little smoother. Why are you looking at me like that? Ricardo smiled warmly. I just find you truly admirable, my lady. Very well, let us talk about him. I am referring to Daniel as a young boy. Back then, he was already training with his sword quite seriously. Margaret would call out to him, Daniel, the sun is too harsh today. Come rest here in the shade, my child. Young Daniel would innocently reply that he was fine. He claimed he had to become a great knight quickly to protect Lord Leopold. Hearing that, Margaret could not help but smirk. She wiped the sweat from his brow and told him not to call her my lady. Call me mother, she said. You are my son too, just like Leopold. When he was a little boy, Daniel truly idolized the Queen Mother. For someone as rotten as a wen, manipulating a child was effortless. She constantly drilled into him that to be accepted as an illegitimate son, he had to be ready to die for Leopold. You will inherit the family legacy. That was the lie she used to brainwash Daniel every single day. That woman had a plan from the very beginning. She intended to use him as a human shield for her own biological son. She wanted to sacrifice Daniel to secure the throne for Leopold. Meanwhile, the late Grand Duke Richard lived his whole life tormented by his wife's insatiable hunger for power. Only Laura, Daniel's biological mother, fought with everything she had to protect her young son from that woman. Hearing this, Frida grew curious. Was Lady Laura your first love? She asked quietly. Ricardo nodded calmly. Yes, she was. Though it did not work out. Laura was the daughter of our mercenary captain back then. Eventually, she could not take the abuse anymore. She essentially had to cast Daniel out of the castle just to keep him safe from the Queen Mother. After that, Daniel spent many years wandering across the empire with our band of mercenaries, learning to survive. Dominic was close to him back then. He told me Daniel carried a deep resentment toward his mother, even though he missed his noble family terribly. Yet, he always clutched a certain embroidered handkerchief tightly. 3 years later, during a brutally cold winter, we heard that Daniel's father, Grand Duke Richard, was bedridden. So, we returned to the castle at once. When Daniel arrived, he saw his older brother was suffering from a severe cold, so he gave him some medicine. He had no idea that tiny bottle would turn his entire life upside down. When Margaret saw the medicine, she demanded to know who gave it to Leopold. Ricardo explained it was medicine made from foxglove meant to break fevers, but it carried a dark side effect hidden behind its healing properties. If used repeatedly, it causes permanent infertility. The Queen Mother was beyond furious that her son had taken it, and she immediately demanded Daniel be sent to the gallows. Laura threw herself at the Queen's feet, begging for mercy on her son's behalf. She claimed it was just a child's innocent mistake, but the Empress showed no mercy. In the end, Laura saved her son by trading her own life for his. Ricardo lowered his voice. That nightmare from that day is something Daniel will never be able to forget. Right then, his mind drifted back to his old days with the mercenary troop. While Frida hung on every word, Daniel sat there quietly, staring at the sword in his hands. He stayed silent, eyes lost in thought on the ceiling. Years ago, Daniel hated the idea of joining mercenaries. Laura promised she was not forcing him to be one. She just wanted him to train under Ricardo. He stubbornly refused, claiming Duchess Wen would find someone to train him into a proper knight instead. Laura snapped back in anger. Daniel, she is not your mother. I am your mother. Brainwashed by Margaris, the little boy yelled that he wished she was his real mother. If that were true, he could have been the Duke's son, just like Leopold. Laura froze. Her face was a mask of pure, stunned disbelief. Daniel snapped back to reality. He wished these memories had vanished along with his head injury, but instead, they clawed their way back, crystal clear and incredibly painful. He set the sword back on the chair and walked out, pacing slowly down the long hallway. He spotted two figures in the courtyard. Was that Ricardo and Frida down there? Word was they were always together. Dominic said Ricardo was getting so attached that he did not know how he would ever say goodbye when the time came. The thought faded as a breeze swept by. Daniel suddenly stopped in his tracks. He watched Frida closely. Was she crying? By the time he could react, she had vanished, forcing Daniel to search everywhere to find her. Anton looked surprised. Are you looking for the lady? I saw her working in her office just a moment ago. Dominic was stunned. The lady? I never expected you to be the one looking for her. He just ordered new furniture for the butler. Another servant chimed in. I was just with her. She wanted help picking out the banquet ingredients. After we finished with that, I am not really sure where she headed off to. Daniel was floored that someone so small could cover so much ground. He had only looked away for a second and already lost her. Seeing his face, the worker sighed. Even I have a hard time keeping up with her sometimes. Since you are awake now, she hoped the lady would rest. Is not all this running around too much for someone so delicate? Daniel realized she was telling him to step up and be a real husband. He replied, I know exactly how hard she has been working. He urged Daniel to take action. The lady is a noble, yet she does not own a single piece of jewelry. Daniel said he told her to buy whatever she liked, but the servant got even angrier. She is not the type to spend money. A husband should buy the gifts himself. Leaving the kitchen, he scratched his head. He had gained nothing and gotten a total earful for his trouble. What on earth am I even doing? Just then, he pictured the fireplace room with its warm, flickering light. Daniel pushed the door open. He saw her figure warming herself by the hearth. Found her. Hearing the noise, Frida glanced over at him. She let out a small gasp. Oh, Duke. Daniel stepped forward. What are you doing in here all alone? Frida replied, I am just watching the fire. Whenever my mind feels cluttered, coming here helps me find some peace and quiet. Daniel sat down beside her. He had finally found her, yet he realized he did not have a single thing to say. He wondered if she was lying to hide her tears. He then asked, I noticed the massive community kitchen. Was that your doing? Frida nodded. Yes, I had it built so we could get an accurate count of everyone in the territory. Daniel frowned, clearly confused. The people in the territory? She explained that most people passing the castle were working-age adults. They did not have enough staff in Monhem to keep track of the children or the elderly. So, I opened a community kitchen and decided we would bake bread to give out to them for free. Once word got out that everyone would receive a loaf, people started coming on their own. Many even moved to settle right near the castle walls. Daniel still did not get why she was counting them. Frida explained that data is vital for managing land, especially tracking the children. I am planning to find the most talented children and send them off to get a proper education. When they return with actual skills, they will become an invaluable asset to the entire UET. Daniel finally understood. You are planting seeds for the future, just like those seedlings you bought from the merchants. Frida nodded, saying that was exactly it. Seeing her radiant smile, Daniel could not help but smile too. Just a moment ago, she looked so heartbroken, but talking about her work made her glow like a happy child. He remarked that her knowledge was truly impressive. It was far better than those who just brag about degrees. He asked where she learned it all. Frida hesitated, saying she just read a lot growing up. My parents were overprotective and never let me leave the estate. Daniel was silent for a moment before admitting it was very impressive. Most people with your level of knowledge use it for themselves. They do not share it with others like you do. Ever since I woke up and saw how things operate around this castle, I can see how incredibly hard you have been working throughout this entire week. Thank you for using your talents to protect my territory for these past 3 years. I have wanted to say this to you for a long time. Frida started to speak, but simply smiled and looked down with a warm heart. She thought to herself that no one had ever truly accepted her for who she was before. Daniel was frustrated. He meant to ask why she was crying earlier, but the conversation had shifted to something else entirely. Suddenly, Frida spoke up. I was locked away my whole life, and I honestly thought I would die before turning 20. Just like my sisters did, I thought I would simply vanish without leaving a single trace behind. So, I was terrified to sleep every night. but since arriving at UET, every single day feels like a dream. I do not know what others think of you, but to me, you are the savior who made my dreams come true." Daniel turned beet red. While both their hearts pounded, Frida smiled and added, "Thank you so much, Duke." He remembered his retainers questioning him, saying, "My lord, please, you must treat her better than this. Why are you being so cold to your wife?" Daniel realized he had no idea how to handle a wife he had been distant from for 3 years. He actually hoped she would fear him and leave while she still could. But then Frida said, "You are the benefactor who made my dreams come true. Thank you so much, my lord." If only she had done that before I reached the point where I cannot push her away anymore. Another day passed, and Frida woke up feeling feverish. The more time I spend with him, the more I realize the Duke is a better man than I thought. She recalled Daniel's words, thanking her for protecting his land with her talent for 3 years. He had meant to say it for a very long time. Frida thought back on his past, shocked that he had suffered through such cruelty. She decided she really wanted to treat him much better starting right now. Suddenly, there was a knock. "My lady, may I come in?" Frida turned her head. "Yes, please, come in. Why are you here so early?" Daniel replied that there was urgent news. After hearing it, Frida let out a shocked scream. "What is it?" "The son of the Marquis is on his way here, along with Baron and Baroness Boy." Daniel explained that their carriage broke down, and Mr. ODC happened to pass by. Frida thought silently, "Mr. Offick again? Such a powerful person is coming to our castle so suddenly." She rubbed her chin and asked, "Well, should we prepare the rooms?" Daniel nodded. "Even if he is unwelcome, we cannot let the Marquis' son sleep in the stables. Move a bed from the Bali room to the Psi Hall. I heard the Balis are a happy couple, so I am sure they will understand the situation." Frida asked curiously, "Wait, is it really that urgent? When exactly are they getting here?" Daniel simply said 3. She frowned. 3 days? He shook his head. 3 hours. Frida immediately jumped out of bed. "We need to move now. There is no time to waste. We have to prepare dinner and clean the castle immediately." Daniel tried to calm her down. "My lady, Dominic will handle it." Then, he suddenly grabbed her hand. Frida turned back to look. Daniel frowned and said, "You seem to have a fever, so do not go out to greet them. I have one favor to ask." Frida wondered, "What favor? What do you need?" Daniel was silent for a few seconds before asking, "Could you please treat me with total intimacy?" Frida was stunned. "What?" He told her to be as bold as possible, especially in front of Mr. OP. She wondered what he meant by bold. He continued, saying, "You can start by calling me Daniel." Then, Daniel grabbed her hand and pulled her closer. "You can also touch me like this," he said. "And no matter what he says, just ignore it." Out in the hallway, Muriel asked, "Dominic, why are you hiding here when the guests are about to arrive?" He said he was avoiding a specific guest. That crazy deer. She frowned and asked if it was Mr. OP and why he came to this remote place. Dominic explained that the Duke saved the man's life in battle, and now he follows him around like he is some kind of god. He must have rushed here the moment he heard the Duke woke up. Just then, a carriage pulled into the estate. He pointed and said, "Speak of the devil." Inside, Harick stood up with his blue cloak fluttering. His handsome face and silver hair scanned the surroundings. Morel watched him and said, "Well, his looks certainly live up to the nickname." Dominic sighed. "Who said it was about his looks?" she asked curiously. "Then what is it?" He snapped back. "I am the one who gave him that name. The way he prances around looks like a deer with an arrow stuck in its backside. And he acts like a lunatic with flowers growing in his head instead of a brain." Suddenly, Harick lunged forward to hug Daniel, shouting, "My hero has finally awakened. How are you feeling? Are you okay?" Muriel was stunned by the sight. Harick immediately began taking all the credit. "I caught that little rat the Dowager sent on my way here. Did I do good?" Daniel silently pushed his face away, stepping forward to welcome them to UT. "Baron, Ladyboy, and you as well. Thank you for greeting us in person," Madi replied to the Baron. "Duke, where is the Duchess?" Daniel answered. "She is not feeling well today, so I am here in her stead." Hark froze. "Wait, then who is that woman?" Hearing this, Daniel turned around to see for himself. His eyes widened the moment he saw her. On the staircase, Frida held the railing, slowly stepping down toward them. She spoke politely. "It is a pleasure to meet you all. I am Frida Richard. Please forgive my tardiness in greeting such distinguished guests today." Stefan and Madi stared at her in silence. Daniel stepped toward her, asking tenderly, "How are you feeling now?" Frida replied, "I feel much better after some rest. Thank you for your concern." Daniel suddenly paused in his tracks. Harick stepped forward with a frown. "Hold on, I heard she was suffering from a terminal illness," he said. "I thought she was near death, but she looks completely fine." The room went dead silent the moment he finished. Daniel growled, "Herc, watch your mouth." At that moment, Frida was doing her best to hide how much her hands were shaking. She recalled Daniel telling her not to mind whatever that man said. So, she thought to herself, this is what he meant. She closed her eyes, steadying her breath. I am the Grand Duchess Richard, she reminded herself. This flashy fellow must be the son of a marquis, but he has no real title of his own to speak of. Therefore, the first person she needed to greet was Countess Boy. Frida turned to Madi. Your journey here must have been quite exhausting, Lady Boy. It is a pleasure, Count Boy. I have heard much of your outstanding abilities. Stepan bowed, thanking the Duchess for her incredibly warm welcome. He hesitated before speaking. I know this is quite sudden, but could I ask the Duchess for a small favor? Frida felt curious. He asked if his pregnant wife could go to her room to rest after such an exhausting trip. Mada quickly said she was fine, despite the breach of etiquette. Frida smiled brightly. Oh heavens, of course you can. She turned to ask, Daniel, I would like to personally escort the Countess to her room. May I be excused? He nodded, telling her to rest since she had traveled while pregnant. Madi smiled with deep gratitude, thanking them both. Daniel continued, Countess, please get some proper rest. I will have a doctor come and check on you immediately. Meanwhile, Frida remembered his words. Can you act as affectionate toward me as possible? You can even touch me like this if you want. After thinking, she reached out and wrapped her arms around his. By the way, Daniel, she said. He looked down in surprise as she whispered. You mentioned that Lord ODC would be arriving today as well, so where is he? Daniel froze for a moment, then smirked. Ah, this is Lord ODC, the son of the Marchioness. Harick was quietly annoyed. Is this woman actually blind? There is clearly a new person standing right here. Why is she acting like I do not even exist? He finally decided to introduce himself. It is a pleasure, Duchess. I am Harick Muller, son of the Marquis and Daniel's absolute best friend. Before he finished, Frida interrupted. Oh, so you are Lord ODC? Please forgive me for not recognizing you sooner. You look nothing like your father. He is known for being so dignified, so I assumed you were just a servant for the Count. Harick's ears were ringing in shock. A servant? He wondered. Who exactly was she talking about? Me? Harick? Frida continued her friendly sarcasm. My apologies, Lord ODC. Since we were both a bit rude, let's call it even and just forget the whole thing. Daniel tried to hide a laugh nearby. Harick was still fuming. A servant? Of all the things to call me? Frida had already turned Maddie away. I hope you enjoy your stay here at Moonhem Castle. Shall we go now, Lady Countess? His voice shook with pure rage. Wait a minute. What? What on earth is wrong with that woman anyway? That night in his simple room, Daniel let out a long sigh. Harick's voice was still echoing in his head, asking if he looked like a servant and calling the woman strange. Daniel rubbed his forehead and sighed. Dominic had vanished somewhere, leaving him to endure that man's company for half the day. Just then, the light of a nearby lamp caught Daniel's attention. He glanced over, thinking about a new rule that had recently been established at Moonhem Castle. Because the Grand Duchess suffered from poor vision at night, the lights in the castle were never turned off until she went to bed. Naturally, his own private room remained the only exception. Suddenly, footsteps echoed from outside. The door creaked open as Frida poked her head in. Oh, you are here. May I come inside, sir? Sir. Daniel sighed to himself. She was back to that formal title again? As you wish, he replied to her. Frida sat down beside him, whispering that she had finished speaking with the Countess. She doesn't seem bad. The fact she traveled while pregnant says a lot about her character. Perhaps we can bring them to our side. Daniel shook his head, certain she didn't know how nobles really think. Frida maintained her stance. It is just a feeling I have. Oh, there was something I forgot to ask you earlier. He looked at her with suspicion. Frida blushed slightly. What is it? You were the one who told me to act more affectionate with you. What is the reason we need to pretend to be such a happy married couple? Daniel fell silent, then admitted he wanted the Queen Mother to think they were happy, since she was obsessed with his personal relationships. The Emperor still lacks a formal heir. The Queen Mother fears an illegitimate son like him having a child could ruin the royal succession. Frida watched him, hearing his words in her head. Why should I have a child that will never be welcomed or accepted anywhere in this world? Then she spoke. I understand. I am sorry. I did not know that, and I should never have presumed to mention a second wife. He shook his head. It is fine. The room went silent for a moment. Daniel said it was late and she should go rest, as she must be exhausted from the day. Frida suddenly stood up and pulled on Daniel to stop him. He turned around, looking confused. She spoke up immediately. We are supposed to be acting like a happy married couple, after all. So, I will be staying the night here with you. Thanks for watching today. Our story is not over yet, and there are many more exciting twists and turns coming your way soon. So, do not forget to hit the like button and subscribe to support us and stay updated on all the latest episodes. We hope you had a fun and relaxing time with us. See you in the next video. Thank you all for watching. Yeah.